All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are officially now in November. And this is traditionally in the Oscar stage where I always say we go from the pure speculation where, okay, the festivals hit and we see a couple of films really die early in the Oscar race, be the sacrificial lambs to the season or whatever. And then you have other ones that come along and you're like, okay, you can see that one maybe doing well. This one might, get a good number of nominations. This one, early frontrunner, could be that early frontrunner or whatever. Now we're into what I call, this is the official early frontrunner stage. We're about a month away from the critics groups starting to sound off. All the regional awards will start awarding all their prizes and stuff. We have, we mentioned a little bit last time, the Gotham Award nominations. Those are out, and I believe they're actually handed out this month sometime. We don't have to look it up today, but yeah, we'll cover that when they win. And then we might do final predictions when we get closer to that one. And then usually in December, usually is when we get those Critics' Choice, Globes, SAGs, usually within a few days of each other. Who knows about the Globes this year, of course. We talked all about that. But I think SAG, their nominations are not going to be till January. Critics' Choice, I believe, is also they're going to be a little bit later, I think, than normal. And whether that's still because of COVID and Delta variant and stuff, I'm not sure. They were obviously a little later last year as well, but obviously the whole schedule got thrown off. But still, usually in December is when the Critics' Prizes start, then those start, and then we get a little bit of a break around the Christmas holidays and stuff, and all those, Kwanzaa and Hanukkah, and I'm naming off all the rest of those. We usually don't get as much going on there until after New Year's, and then usually that's when the Golden Globes are, is like the first couple weeks of there, and then of the January rather, and then we get into Critics' Choice, SAG, BAFTA nominations are usually out in early January before or after the Globes, and then so on and so forth. But yeah, so again, we'll see a couple different things this year. But one thing, though, I think, as we do enter November, is I think we clearly do have a couple of films that are really, really vying for being that front-runner status. And I went ahead and made the switch. I say Belfast now for Best Picture. I'm just seeing Tragedy of Macbeth on top of a little bit of a question of, okay, how well is it going to play theatrically? Because obviously it's going to be like A24 and Amazon, or Apple rather. There's going to be a little bit of a question on that. But also I'm getting the sense, even though it's a little higher critically rated, I believe, right now than both Belfast and Power of the Dog, which still remains in second place for me. Even though they're a little higher critically rated, I get the sense early. I mean, obviously, again, we've got a lot of the season to go, and we haven't, like I said, we haven't even heard from, anybody yet, critics groups and all that yet. I get the sense that this one will have not as much general passion. I get the sense there's going to be people that like this movie a lot and respect this movie a lot, and they're going to, commend it for everything it does as far as the black and white, and as far as the acting, and as far as the set design and costume design and all that fun stuff. Cinematography, of course, like we mentioned, black and white, cinematography and everything. But they're not, I don't really get a sense that this is going to be a movie that people are going to, put their arms around and hug, and embrace the way you could with Parasite. And Belfast is really looking like that movie right now. And Power of the Dog is not that movie either. Generally, I think there's a little bit more going on with that one than just that's keeping it number 2. I think generally with that one too, it's also, it's one that you don't really quite know the subject matter until you get to the last 5 minutes of the movie or so. It's entertaining up to that point, but then you get to that and then it's like, oh, so this is this kind of story now. And I think in repeat viewings, I think voters and everybody, I think they're going to appreciate that more. And maybe even might appreciate some of the performances more, especially Cody Smith-McPhee. Definitely they'll appreciate that one more in the second viewings. But again, I saw that one early, and I wasn't really supposed to. So, and obviously I don't want to give way too much away, because again, a lot of people are not going to be able to see it for, is it another couple weeks? Week? It'll come out on Netflix here pretty quick. But I think it was mid-November. just gonna see. 17th in the U.S. And that might be just in theaters, though. Okay, December 1st is when it's streaming on Netflix. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. Obviously, this is still a smart play on Netflix's part to put it in limited theatrical release before they do, before they do go into the streaming and everything. And really, I mean, the only other step they really need to take with that is just announcing the box office figures, which it doesn't look like they're going to do anytime soon. But otherwise, it's just a general, limited release that goes into wide. Just instead of wide audiences in the theaters, it's going to be wide audiences on streaming on Netflix. And so going back to Belfast real quick, even though, yes, this is a black and white movie and everything, and again, this could very easily be like, okay, well, what's the difference between this and Roma? Other than the fact that Roma was not in English except for like a few lines of dialogue here and there. I think it's shorter than Roma. It seems like, from the surface, it's not going to be, as... I'll just say overly artistic without being too, slandering against Roma. Because obviously that one is all about, the scope of it and about, all that stuff. And the storytelling and the plotting of that one, not so heavy. It's more slice of life. It's, again, more bicycle thieves and stuff like that versus, something more modern, which is, again, very plot-driven, very character-driven, dialogue-driven kind of films. Belfast seems to really walk both those traits a little bit because it will have, black-white cinematography. And it's going to be, it's probably going to feel important with, the whole IRA movement, early to mid '60s and all that, and all that. But it's going to, it's going to have those artistic people that still really like it, and then the people who just like, the kind of more, maybe not tug your heartstrings, but more ones like that. They're going to like it. Obviously having a kid at the center of the story is going to be a good play there. And yeah, I mean. It could be in the same way. It's not going to be like Jojo Rabbit, which I thought even in 2019, I thought maybe it was going to be that weird upset one that just comes out of nowhere and comes back to win, a couple, obviously more than Screenplay, which it did win. But I thought maybe it actually will come back and get that director nomination. And then later on, I thought maybe, again, very slim chance of Best Picture. I thought it was one of 4 that could win that year. And even then, I thought it's like barely... that one had more, it's like more comedy, and more, not spoof, but more, what's the word? The word I'm looking for is, leaving me right now. But, yeah, it's, it was more in that way. Whereas Belfast will take it a little bit more seriously. It will be, drama, if it was at the Globes and stuff, and, it would run in that category and everything. Yeah, so I'm just looking at all the signs and everything. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm jumping on that ship right now before everybody else jumps on the ship. And even then, even after TIFF, when it won the Audience Award, that's when a lot of people started to really look at it seriously. And even then, I was like, yeah, I kept bumping it up and up and up. And yeah, I think the highest I had it was 3rd before then I switched it to first place. And yeah, Power of the Dog, I think, really quickly wrapping up on that one, too. Yeah, traditionally, Westerns aren't your number 1 for Best Picture. Obviously, Unforgiven, is one that people will look at. Dances with Wolves, all those. There was a period there where, yeah, they did okay. And that's obviously after the boom of the, 30s, 40s, 50s, even up to somewhat in the 60s. And even through that period, Best Picture, it didn't always happen. Cimarron, whatever that one was. Which I actually went back and watched that one. It's actually a really good movie. That was one. It's like I think they said that one all the way to Dances with Wolves was like the last time you had 2 Westerns winning Best Picture or whatever. But it's like they didn't traditionally do well and everything. So this one is a Western as well. I think part of the reason why it might actually pull through for Best Picture is going to be, okay, are we back to the director picture lineup coming through like it did last year and the year before with Parasite and with Nomadland? And it was the first time in a while we've had 2 years back-to-back where director and picture line up. We were more used to director and picture splitting. It was, you go back to 2011 and 2010 being the last 2 times, I believe, that they lined up 2 years in a row. because 12 obviously was the year of Argo. 2013 they split again between Gravity and 12 Years a Slave. Birdman lined up, and then you had Revenant and Spotlight splitting, Moonlight and La La Land splitting. Then you had Shape of Water winning both, and then you had the split between Green Book and Roma. So So are we looking at 3 years in a row? Which actually 2009 they were right with Catherine Bigelow, and I was going to say Zero Dark 30, but no, the Hurt Locker. That was the last time we had 3 in a row, obviously, but and then it goes on and on through there. You have to go back to 2005, 6. Yeah, 05. 05 was the Brokeback Mountain year. That was the last time Director's Picture split. So then you had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 6 years in a row where they lined up. So I don't know if we're going to hit that, because you got to predict a long ways down the road. But Jane Campion, I think, is going to make a play for director. Obviously, I have her. We'll get into director as well, but I have her higher on the list still. I think she's one to watch for there. And right now, I would say part of that is because she does do a really good job directing the movie, but also part of that is there's a little bit of a groundswell that's starting to go out like, hey, let's get 2 women winning in a row. That would be nice and everything. And obviously Jane Campion, the first female ever nominated for directing for The Piano in '93. So it would be kind of nice to see that culminate. Obviously, this is just one thing, it's like, okay, we had our second female winner last year, also our first female person of color winning last year in Chloe Zhao, and we'll talk about Eternals. I haven't seen it, but we'll talk about that as well, just briefly, because that's that's probably like the most like Oscar friendly movie that's not already screened or whatever. We'll get into it, because early on I pegged that one to be one to watch for, but I don't know anymore. Anyways, but yeah, not going back to that with the female directors winning and everything. There's definitely there's a little bit of a okay, let's keep it going kind of thing, because this is the next step, is having 2 in a row, and then after that it's like, and if I believe she's a producer on Power of the Dog as well. Yes, she is. Then it'd be okay, 2 producer directors winning 2 years in a row if they both win and everything, and it goes from there and there and there. But yeah, I mean, that's, if it comes down to the politics of it, in that way, and politics just being the word to use for that, then that's going to be decided, I think, later on in the race. I don't know if we can obviously determine that right now. And I think even at this stage last year, when maybe not this exact stage, because clearly the Globes and Critics' Choice, SAG nominations were still like 2 months out at this point. Like over 2 months out, closer to 3 months out, if I remember right. Because I think it was late February when the Globes last year, right? I think it was something like that. It was late. But anyways, it was like, maybe it was early February when they came out. Anyways, point is, at this point, even relatively close to this point last year, Chloe Zhao winning was more than just, oh, it's female director, just put her ahead. It was, people who had seen the movie said, oh no, she's doing a hell of a job directing this movie. She's going to be nominated for sure. And it took off from there. So generally, we'll see how that race goes for director, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But I think those 2 are strong factors right now for why I would put those 2 ahead of the rest of the pack. And speaking of the rest of the pack, so I have Nightmare Alley in a solid 3rd right now, without moving the computer too much. Tragedy Macbeth falls to 4th place for me. Again, I see it as one where it's like, it's going to get plenty of votes and stuff to get nominated, here and in screenplay and in the acting categories, at least a couple of them. Likely for screenplay, I think we named that one, sorry. A couple tech categories and stuff as well. But for like winning a lot of those, it's going to be tougher. It's going to have to really, really do well with voters. And I don't know, that's a little questionable right now. In 5th place, making a big jump for me, King Richard. Yeah, we'll get to director, because I think there's still a chance, a more solid chance than I was thinking even like a couple weeks ago. That's a play for director, I think. That's in play for director. And I think, again, that's one where I think if it had played at TIFF, I think it could have been 2nd or 3rd for the audience award. I think audiences are going to gobble this thing up. Not only do you have a very, very popular actor in Will Smith, arguably from some reviews giving the performance of his life so far in the movies as the Richard character. But it's also got the rooting factor with, two very, very popular and celebrated and obviously extremely talented athletes in Venus and Serena Williams, and seeing their start. And obviously they've got a lot, with endorsement deals and everybody, everybody knows who they are and everything. So there's a lot of excitement around there. Obviously it's also got to play for supporting actress, who I haven't heard her name as much yet, so... hopefully, this one is also one that comes out. I think it's, is it? I was going to say, I think it's either before Thanksgiving weekend, like the weekend before Thanksgiving or weekend of Thanksgiving. 19th. So that's the weekend before Thanksgiving. Yeah. Yeah, so, that one is, I think, again, even though it's going to be HBO Max, I can see that one still, maybe not outperforming like Dune at the box office, because that's of the ones that have come on HBO Max and in theaters, arguably that one's going to do the best. I mean, it had the best opening, I believe. So I don't know if it's going to top that, like, opening weekend-wise, but maybe in the long run, because I believe HBO Max right now, they only have it playing for, like, a month on HBO Max, and then it goes off until it comes out on disc and stuff. Then you can see it there streaming again and everything. During that period, the only way to see it is going to be in the theaters, and at that point, we're going to be closer to not only more critics groups, which they could go for Will Smith. I mean, I would say right now they're going to go more for like the Joaquin Phoenixes, what's the Red Rocket or that actor. They'll go maybe a couple of them for Denzel, maybe a few of them even for Peter Dinklage. I mean, that one and others that we're not really thinking of right now. Some foreign film performers and stuff. International actors and stuff. Obviously they always win their fair share. Like New York Film Critics always gives, one or two prizes to stuff like that every once in a while. So, but I don't know. I think, like maybe National Board Review, stuff like that. Yeah, a couple of those might go with Will Smith. So I think the buzz is generally going to go up, and by the time we get to like Christmas, I think it's still going to be sticking around at the box office. And I think people are going to still going to be going to see it at that point and everything. It's not going to be on HBO anymore, so they're going to go to the, hopefully a few of them go to the theater and see it and everything. And yeah, we'll go from there. And I think it will do generally well at the box office as well. So, and even in this COVID era, where again a lot of these films are going to be streaming to some degree or another, as we get into the main play of the season. That's got to help. That's definitely got to help. Because even in this era, Hollywood always loves your box office winners. They always say, oh, good for you. You went and got the masses out and everything. So, I mean, they appreciate it. Stuff like Ford v. Ferrari doing well a couple years ago, that helped it for sure. Anyway, so then we'll go to number 6. I have Licorice Pizza. Falling just a little bit there. Again, we talked about the rumors around the movie last time, and obviously I have not heard a peep since. And again, I would say let's not give a lot of credence to that, because that was like a couple sites reporting that, a couple tweets here and there. Maybe, I don't know, I haven't gone to look for it. Maybe they've already been taken down. Because, I don't know how legit they are, but again, they were talking more about, it's going to be more of a play for like screenplay, maybe not so much on directing, all that stuff. You can go back to the previous video and kind of surf through there until you find it. But I don't know. And then on top of it too, it's one that's going to open, and play there, not at some of the festivals or anything, not at AFI Fest or anything. So obviously like Phantom Thread, that turned out really well for PTA, but other times it does not. But so I'm keeping this one middle of the pack right now. Then in 7th place, taking a little bit of a jump actually, is Dune. And I'm, this one I got to talk about also with director, because I put, I don't know, it's a couple minutes away anyways. Villeneuve I have in for director now. I just looked at it and I'm like, you know what? In the tech categories, outside of original song, where I believe it does not have contention there, it's going to hit the rest of the tech categories. Very likely at this point. It's very likely to hit makeup, visual effects, sound, production design, costume design, cinematography, score, and film editing. Yeah, I think we named them all. If not, hang on, I was looking this up earlier. Yeah, let's see here. So, yeah, let's see. The way this is listed: score, sound, production design, cinematography, makeup, costume design, film editing, visual effects. I can see it hitting all 8 of those. Which, again, other than song, that's all the tech categories. So, yeah, that's, even more impressive haul. Obviously, the most impressive haul, I think, of Villeneuve's films, because Arrival got, what was it, 1 sound category? A few of those, cinematography and stuff. Blade Runner was kind of hit and miss in those techs, and that's really all ended up with. And this one clearly is going to be in a lot better shape than those. Even though I'm not so high on it for screenplay, I don't think it's impossible. I would say it's probably like in the 6th, 7th, 8th range there. So even screenplay I would think is possible. Really, the only place Dune is going to completely struggle 100%, I think, is the acting categories, and that's just because there's really nobody that sticks out in the movie that is like the obvious like go-to. Like, other films, for example, that, maybe not, a direct correlation here again, would be like Fellowship of the Ring. The one actor you could kind of look at least in that first movie, and everybody did, and they're like, okay, we can go with him. Ian McKellen, playing Gandalf and stuff. And even then, he won at SAG, or Globes or something. Yeah, he won one of them early, so he was not like heavy favorite, but, he was, some people thought he had a good shot, Oscar night. Or even, for me, Return of the King, I look back, I'm like, how did Sean Astin not get in for that? He got a couple things here and there at, like, some obscure, more of the regional prizes, but, like, SAG didn't let him in. I'm like, some of those, you would think today, would have been probably a shoo-in just because he's actually, like, outstanding in that movie and everything. And he's good in all the movies in that trilogy. But especially Return of the King, you got to look at, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Stuff like that. I got to go back and watch those now because, I don't know, off story. At work, I'll listen to some Spotify, like movie soundtracks and stuff. And recently I added Fellowship and Return of the King. I don't know. Growing up, The Two Towers, I would always watch like the first like 20 minutes or so. And then I would skip ahead until we get to like the action scenes. Like the end scene, Helm's Deep, is probably like, other than a couple spots here and there, probably like the most I've watched of the Lord of the Rings films on repeat or whatever, if that makes sense. Like I've seen the end, like the last hour of Two Towers. I think I've seen that more times on repeat than I've seen the whole movie put together, through my life, I think. Just because, I would watch it, so many times as a kid and stuff. But so that one, I don't know, other, the first couple hours to me are like always like when I go back to watch it, for the first time in a while, I'm like, oh, I forget this. The first 2 hours are actually, really, really great. And that last battle, of course, yeah, that's spectacular, And, there's even people that argue it's the best, like action beat of the whole trilogy and stuff. I still got to say when you get to the Battle of Pelennor Fields, the Rohirrim charge and stuff, that part of Return of the King, I mean, I don't know, hands down, I got to give it to that. Plus, you get the Army of the Dead entrance with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli jumping off that boat right as the score kicks in. Oh my god, I got to go back and watch those now. All right, anyways, so that's plus seeing Dune. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's trying to be the next Lord of the Rings and stuff. So all of that kind of culminated for me and stuff, but I don't know, but getting back to the point here with the acting categories with Dune, who do you go with? I mean, Timothée Chalamet, I mean, it's already kind of we mentioned this last time with maybe somebody like a Daniel Craig being a dark horse for Best Actor, a true dark horse. Timothée, I mean, he's got a couple good scenes in it, but I don't really see him getting his second nomination for this. If he couldn't get in for A Beautiful Boy, I don't see how he gets in for this. And obviously, again, competition stuff was a big factor that year too. Plus, how well that movie had been seen, which clearly was a big downfall for that one. Versus Dune is probably going to be on everybody's list. And then you look at the rest of them. It's like, I don't know. It's like nobody from the supporting cast really sticks out that much, and a lot of them also don't really have the screen time. Like I remember last year when Dune was in for a while before it got pulled and stuff. Some people were betting on Zendaya to be in for supporting actress, and it's like, well, if they'd seen the movie, they would have known that wasn't going to happen because she's in it for all of 6-7 minutes. I mean, it's obviously they set her up to be a bigger part of the second film or beyond. If they do more than two at the end of the day. But I think from the way it sounds, they're going to stick with part one, part two, kind of like it. But I don't know. If it were me, I would say try to maybe extend it out to a trilogy. I would say, maybe try to do that. But who knows? So I think, yeah, truly the one place Dune is going to struggle, I think, is those acting categories. But again, we talked about, not only Lord of the Rings, but like Parasite and Slumdog Millionaire, which, I would say those two had much better candidacies for acting categories as well. Better than Dune, definitely. Even those without acting nominations, they still win Best Picture. So, at least still do really well. I don't think Dune, I think even though it is fantasy, and again, we've seen, Lord of the Rings and stuff win as a fantasy film and everything, I just don't really sense that one, even though it's going to have, arguably it'll have the most nominations. If not, if it's not Nightmare Alley, it's probably Dune. I don't know. I don't think that automatically puts it at the top of the list. Like, even remember in that 2019 year, Joker had the most nominations, but who was taking that like as the one to win for Best Picture? Like, nobody. So it doesn't always, having the most nominations used to be a big thing, and it obviously, Shape of Water being the most recent example where it's like, hey, it might really help you, but it's not always the most important thing. Okay, I have hanging out at number 8, Spencer, which has fallen a little bit, and that one, I believe, does enter limited release this weekend. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, and looking forward to seeing Kristen Stewart, what she has there and stuff. And again, I go back to a couple films of hers that I was like, okay, she's more than just what's her name from Twilight. Go back to see Still Alice, and I actually liked her in the Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, which everybody forgot about as soon as it was out, but she's got some good scenes in that. And I haven't seen like Clouds of Silmaria or whatever, a couple of those. But yeah, a lot of people also really appreciated her in those films and everything. And this is going to be a little bit more of a mainstream, like, will likely make over $10 million at the box office and stuff, if it does well. Which, limited right now is like, I don't know. French Dispatch is hanging in there okay, but, doing the best of a limited run for limited release movies that we've seen arguably since definitely since the pandemic started and everything, but best in a long time. So but yeah, I'm still looking forward to seeing that one and everything. And I don't know, I'm just looking at the rest of the list. I'm like, for that one, 8, 9, and 10, I'm like, I'm really putting those in because I just don't believe enough in the other films right now to put them over them. So number 9, I've fallen quite a ways also, is West Side Story. And that's just, again, I'm looking at this one as more like The Post and less like Lincoln or Bridge of Spies, which did relatively well. Lincoln definitely did very well. That led nominations that year, as I recall. And then Bridge of Spies, popped up pretty consistently across the board. It got an acting nomination, screenplay, picture, plenty of text and stuff. I see this one, being more like The Post, where it's like, I can get, a picture nomination, then maybe a few spots here and there as well. But, and again, we'll see how the end product turns out. Because, I still say it looks really, really good. And it's definitely going to be, for December release, it's going to be way up there for my most anticipated and stuff. But I don't know. It's going to be a struggle, I think, to get that one, like, overjoy, like, tons and tons of nominations and stuff at this point. Because it just seems like some of those other categories and stuff, it's like, we'll see it there likely, but it's, it's not like the strong bet or anything, And then in 10th place, I have Don't Look Up, which, again, I'm, hanging on to that one just because, again, we haven't heard that much about it. And Netflix, again, I think their biggest play is definitely going to be Power of the Dog this year. Other than that, we usually talk about it. Lost Daughter will have some stuff. We've seen, a little bit more news and stuff around Harder They Fall. And what's the one I always forget about? I'm not seeing it in here. Whichever one it is. There's one I'm forgetting about right now. Oh God, what is it? Well, okay, well, I'll find it again. But anyways, so it seems like Don't Look Up seems to be the clear number 2 for which one they're going to get in besides, Power of the Dog and stuff. But it seems like, again, it's going to be more like a comedy, outright comedy, than a big like Oscar player, like even more so than Vice, obviously more so than Big Short and stuff. All right. So moving on here to the the ones that I think definitely still have a shot. I would say probably Coda is still like if it was 11, it would be that one. And again, that one, it's like, yeah, it made a little bit of a splash when it opened and released on Apple and stuff. But since then, Marlee Matlin has fallen way down in a lot of rankings for supporting actress. Any other acting nominations or even director at this point seems like it's a real long shot. Screenplay still looks okay, but it definitely does not look like it's going to be like a 5, 6, 7, nomination film. Like maybe we had pegged it early on in the season. I would say look out next for films like The French Dispatch and The Humans also being ones to look out for, because those, at least The Humans, could also, it could do, okay in the acting categories. Remember, the acting branch is the biggest branch of the Academy, so if enough of them just really, really, really like the movie, they might push it over just enough. Now that we have a solid 10 for Best Picture, it might just get enough of the general support to do that. But again, that one, outside of screenplay, down into the tech categories, it's probably not going to have any support. So watch out for that one to be kind of like a sneaky one that might land that picture nomination. Let's see. House of Gucci, the second trailer didn't impress me, enough to say, oh, that's a huge player now. No, the first trailer was still good, and the second trailer, again, was good, but not, nothing that made me say, okay, instant this for nominations. No, I don't think so. It looks like Adam Driver has, a little, he'll have some yelling scenes and stuff, which, again, it's always good to have those as an actor. That definitely gives you a boost there and stuff. But again, I think, the one that people are going to look to in that movie, and again, the makeup, I think, is going to be a huge part of it, is Jared Leto. So I still have him in for supporting actor, and I still have him winning right now. But again, that's maybe just like an early thing, like early buzz thing. So I'm like, okay, I'll just stick with that until it doesn't work anymore, like Sam Rockwell a few years ago. Or even last year with Jennifer Hudson for Cats, which obviously didn't pan out, or 2 years ago for that one. But yeah, obviously that didn't pan out. Generally I just don't really sense that huge a buzz around the movie. When it opens and when the critics start, looking to it and stuff, then we'll see if maybe it can get a little bit of buzz there, and then we'll see also maybe if it does okay at the box office. Maybe that'll boost it up a little bit. Right now, I wouldn't bet on it being a heavy player right now. Then French Dispatch, even though it is doing well at the box office and the limited run and everything, again, this one, it's not looking strong for anything outside of screenplay, I think, right now in the top categories. Like Wes Anderson, I don't think is a huge player for director yet. Unless it really bounces back and does well at some of these like critics groups and stuff, and Critics' Choice especially, like a director nomination there and a picture nomination there would be very big. Again, it doesn't really seem to have a sure bet for acting, which Grand Budapest did not either, other than Ralph Fiennes, and he got a couple spots here and there, but it didn't pan out. And even some of the tech categories, I would say right now, it's looking like it might be like 5th or 6th in some of those, like production design, costume design. Makeup might be a bit better of a chance there, just because there's so many characters running around and stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a likely bet like all through the tech categories. 1 or 2 here and there, yeah, I can see, but it's not going to be like Grand Budapest, which almost ran the board that year, tying Birdman for most nominations. Let's see, I would say possibly Cyrano and Being the Ricardos are still hanging in there. I still didn't catch that Being the Ricardos trailer or whatever, but yeah, and then I still have a hero, Asghar Farhadi, in there for director, so that one I would say, just on the slight chance that might still poke through for picture. And then probably the last one I would mention here is Mass, which early on I had in there in that 10th slot and stuff. Again, that one I think it's really going to rely on 1 or 2 acting nominations and possibly screenplay, but it's probably not going to be a heavy player outside of those. Okay, so your director lineup right now for me, now that I've put in Denis Villeneuve, I've also put in, now that I have Belfast winning, I did put in Kenneth Branagh. I think he's going to get his, would this only be his second nomination, I believe, as director. Because Henry V got him in, and he got an acting nomination, obviously, that year as well. But I think since then, he's only gotten, I think, 1 screenplay nomination, something like that, for Hamlet, maybe? Oh, and the Week with Marilyn, of course, yeah. This would be his first director nomination in over 30 years. And and his first outright nomination in 10 years since My Week with Marilyn. Getting in for screenplay would be the first time in 25 years since Hamlet, which, man, that was actually a good poll. I was like completely shaky on that. But yeah, so that's and people do forget he did have a live action short nomination for Swan Song in early 90s. So so this would be, he's looking at 6, 7, 8 nominations total now after this year, and I believe he is producing on Belfast as well. Yes, he's one of 4 producers. Anyways, so I just look at it, I'm like, I can see Kenneth making a comeback here and getting the director's nomination. I've been in second place, actually, just behind Guillermo del Toro, who I'm still holding on to for Nightmare Alley. Jane Campion is a strong third, though. She's somebody I can see, we can see them kind of flip-flop a little bit. And, I'm not convinced right now that Belfast is going to be one that wins Picture Director right now. It could easily happen. Kenneth is somebody who's been around the block so many times, not only obviously behind the camera, but also in front of the camera. So, it'd be our first, actor/director winning in a while, though, in the directing race. God, who do we go back to? Who's the last one to do it? Jeez Louise. Because obviously Ben Affleck didn't get in. Best director. I'm going to look this up because it has been a while. Let's see. Technically Martin Scorsese has a couple in front of the camera parts, but for sure the one we would go, Clint Eastwood for $1 Million Baby. So that would be almost 20 years if Brana wins. That'd be the first time in almost 20 years somebody who's known at least equal-handedly as an actor as well as a director would win. So that's, maybe we're due for that. We could be due for that. So it's been 17 years since that happened. Wow, that's been a while. So I have Denis in 4th place, and Asghar Farhadi, I'm still holding on to that for 5th place. And again, I'm going to hold on to it until he absolutely misses every last thing. Then I might go with somebody else. So I did drop Joel Cohen and PTA right now for director. And I think they're going to trail Ronaldo Marcus Green for King Richard. He was one, if it wasn't going to be Denis Villeneuve in there for director for me, I think it was going to be Ronaldo Marcus Green. And again, I would say that one, it's very much, we talked about it a couple times, it's Emerald Fennell. If it's like one of those early ones, or whatever, and especially a DGA nomination would really boost him. That would help. And I'm gonna look up, because is he known for directing television? I'm gonna check that out, because this is the first film I've heard of from him. Let's see. Oh, he did Joe Bell last year? I forgot about that. Well, he's only done 3 episodes of one called Top Boy, a British show, which I've not seen. Yeah, he hasn't done a couple short films. Yeah, he's a relatively new director. His first short film was, at least on here, it's 2014. So, and just his picture here, he doesn't look like the youngest young. I don't know. I don't know the guy. I don't know if he's like 30s, 40s, whatever. But I don't know. Definitely coming from a television background in some way or another. Even Emerald Fennell, did have some television credits to her name, so that helped her at DGA last year, I believe. I would say he's my 6th right now, definitely. Then I would say look out for still Pablo Loren for Spencer. Still has a chance there. Definitely Paulo Sorrentino could be one that comes back for Hand of God. I would definitely not say that's impossible. Pedro Almodovar also in that same class. Spielberg, of course. Adam McKay, of course. Still have a shot, again, depending on how their movies do. Ridley Scott, I would say not impossible for House of Gucci. Sian Heder for Coda. That one would have to bounce back better, much bigger in Best Picture. But that's probably about it for that one. Moving on to the acting categories. One other switch I did make early on is Will Smith. I have him ahead now for King Richard. And part of that was not just because, he's been leading for a while now. But it's also because just, the strength of King Richard. I think this is one that could end up with, 6 nominations or better. I don't know about better. 6 is probably tops. If it can get picture, director, actor, supporting actress, screenplay, and editing, that's a great night for King Richard. At least right now at this stage. And again, outside of that, I don't see it. It's not going to be a big obvious contender in the design categories. Cinematography is looking like a long shot right now, even though it is Roger Elswit who's won before. Yeah, I don't really see it having a more obvious play again, unless there's an original song that we don't know about yet, or that hasn't been heavily advertised yet. Unless it's something like that, maybe it gets to 7 that way. But I don't. Again, I don't really see it as a gigantic player getting more than 6. I think and Parasite won with 6 nominations. The Departed won with 5. So even though it might not look like a bunch of nominations compared to like Power of the Dog or Nightmare Alley or Dune or some of these other ones, it's still a good performance for that film. So I have Denzel in second place, but I was really close to putting Benedict second. Those two I think are really close in second and third. Then I'm still holding on to Leo DiCaprio and Peter Dinklage in fourth and fifth, and I just don't really know again who I would go with here. Outside, Adam Driver, especially after seeing his little bits in that trailer there in House of Gucci. I think after I see the movie, I think then I'll kind of see, okay, how maybe it's more of an obvious thing, and maybe the trailers aren't really showing it yet, but which would be a real switch, because from the first trailers you can kind of see, Cumberbatch is going to be really great. Well, the teaser didn't show much actually, but Will Smith from the early trailers of King Richard and stuff, you're like, oh, okay, that's probably a contender for sure. Stuff like that, the more obvious ones and everything. Obviously you go back to even Daniel Day-Lewis for Lincoln. It's like when that first trailer showed up, everybody's like, okay, Oscars are over, he wins. Sometimes it's just that obvious and they put it all in the trailer, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Jennifer Hudson, for example, in Cats, I thought just from the trailer, I was like, yeah, and that, not being super familiar with that show and everything, I was like, that seems like a role that might win. Anyways, but I'm wary about putting Bradley Cooper in still for Nightmare Alley, even though he seems to be the very popular 5th place pick here, or 4th place, depending on where you would rank it. I think just because, again, I think Licorice Pizza might be his more obvious play. And even that one might fall apart, though. We don't know. I mean, and I'm not saying just because of the rumors and stuff. None of them mention anything about any of the performances being bad or anything. But more or less just how that movie does and stuff. Maybe it doesn't lend itself very well to acting nominations, which would be kind of a first for PTA. I mean, other than maybe Inherent Vice more recently. But obviously The Master, all it got was acting nominations. Phantom Thread surprised us with Leslie Manville in supporting actress. But, Daniel Day was a pretty solid one for Best Actor that year for that one. But obviously you look at, even Boogie Nights and Magnolia got acting nominations and stuff. So even the ones that don't do super hot, for him, Punch Drunk Love, I think, is the only other one that didn't get an acting nomination. Obviously that didn't get anything that year. But, and then outside of that, again, one we haven't seen yet is Andrew Garfield and Tick, Tick, Boom. And I think right now the Joaquin Phoenix for Come On, Come On, it just seems like that movie's just a little underseen right now to pull it. Stephen Yeun, I think, is actually more, you're closer to like maybe 7th, 8th, 9th, in that range there. And then, Red Rocket's the one a lot of the indie watchers are going for with Simon Rex. So, I don't know, again, that one would really, really, really have to be benefited by, like a Globes nomination if it happens. Definitely Critics' Choice if it happens for that 6, 7, 8, however many nominations they put up. And critics groups are definitely going to be the beneficial one for him if he's going to go anywhere. So really no changes here to Best Actors. It's still Kristen Stewart, Jessica Chastain, Frances McDormand, Olivia Colman, and Penelope Cruz in that order. And I would still say for your ones that are also going to run here, not much has changed. Still looking at potentially Jennifer Hudson, still potentially some love for Nicole Kidman, Lady Gaga and Tessa Thompson as well. Possibly Cate Blanchett if it is lead. I don't, just again, early senses from that one, I'm like, seems like it's a lead performance, but they might stick her in supporting if she turns out to be the the easy get for that movie. And if it, and in a category like this, it's like, it might be harder. In supporting actress, it might be easier, like Viola in Fences. Let's see, anybody else we want to mention here? Jodie Comer for Last Duel. That one is just, even though I was surprised, because every time I kept saying, oh, it's mixed at the critics and stuff, it actually, on Rotten Tomatoes, bounced back a little bit. It's actually like 85%, which is actually pretty strong. But it's just laid just a total turd at the box office, unfortunately, for a lot of people. I know my brother especially, he was like looking forward to seeing it, and I don't think he has, but he was like, oh, he's like, that one's not doing well. I'm like, no, like nobody's seen it. And I wasn't really that intrigued by the trailers and everything, so I was like, yeah, and especially after it didn't, impress a lot of people Oscar-wise too, I'm like, yeah, it's probably not going anywhere. But yeah, again, she seems to be the one that everyone's like, okay, maybe that one still has a shot, but we'll see. Okay, for the supporting actors, again, not much change here. Jared Leto out front, then Richard Jenkins, Bradley Cooper, Jesse Plemons, and Cody Smith-McPhee. Last two for Power of the Dog. And right now, that's actually the top 5 at Gold Derby. Ciarán Hinds for Belfast is one I would say still has a shot for sure. Corey Hawkins, definitely. Jason Isaacs possibly for Mass. Again, that one, if it goes over well enough. Willem Dafoe for Nightmare Alley. And I don't know. I guess, actually, back to House of Gucci. Al Pacino had a couple good spots in that trailer, so maybe. All right, then supporting actress. We have Marlee Matlin still out front for me. We've seen Kirsten Dunst, do better here. She's leading Gold Derby right now. But Ann Dowd is still really hanging in there. I have her in second place. She seems like one. She's been around, in enough stuff that this might be, the first nomination at the Oscars. Again, this feels a lot like, and Richard Jenkins is also in this crowd, where it's a movie that's really not looking that strong for Best Picture, but the actors, it's like they're actors. Richard Jenkins is in like 6 movies every year, Ann Dowd, it's almost close to that. She probably does like 2-3 movies a year. We don't always, see her all the time. She's not always the one that everybody goes to, but she's been around. She's worked with a lot of people, and especially when you get to like SAG and stuff, that really, really helps you. So these two, I think, are really going to rely on, and why I don't have them winning right now, it's very much like in 2017 where we saw Lady Bird with, Laurie Metcalf. She virtually ran the table with the Critics' Prize and stuff because it was, more an indie movie that was really doing well with critics. And it seemed like that was going to really take off. And then the Globes happened, and I picked Allison Janney, and Allison Janney took off from there and never looked back. Same with Sam Rockwell. I did not pick him to win the Globes, but you had Willem Dafoe for Florida Project that year. That was like, he was, again, just running the table with the Critics' Prizes. And then when it came to the televised awards and the industry awards, nothing. Absolutely nada. He got nominated, but yeah, obviously no big love there. So I think, both of them I'm putting in that crowd right now. And it's kind of one of those things. It's like once they start getting enough momentum to where they can win at the Critics' Choice or Globes, they might not show up, but or if they win at SAG will be later again. But yeah, especially at that point, then we know it's a real deal thing. But Kirsten Dunst I do have in third, then Ajani Eilish for King Richard. Again, somebody will pronounce it and I'll get it right. And then Catriona Belfay has actually made a real jump here in supporting actress, and I was bouncing between her and Judi Dench. Possibly they both get in, but it's going to be tough. I see her getting. I believe she does play like a mother character in that, if I'm not mistaken, in Belfast. So generally, we saw actually, comparing it again to Jojo Rabbit, Scarlett Johansson was the acting nominee for that film. So again, that's the top 5 for Gold Derby, and I don't know. I would still say Ariana DeBose, Ruth Negga, who we haven't mentioned yet, Martha Plimpton for Mass, Jane Houdyshell for The Humans, Rooney Mara and Toni Collette still for Nightmare Alley. I would still throw in there as still playing in there as well. And then one we've seen make a little bit of a jump here is Jessie Buckley for The Lost Daughter. And Buckley, if I'm not mistaken, she's the one from Judy, right? And then she got a BAFTA nomination the same year for a British film that I didn't see. But she plays in The Lost Daughter. So and it seems like she plays the younger character of Olivia Colman. So possibly, I would say possibly for that one. And that one again, I think would have to take off. Okay, to the screenplay categories now. Again, no real changes here for original screenplay. Licorice Pizza out front, then Belfast, French Dispatch, Don't Look Up, and King Richard I have in there now. I think I had, I did have Spencer in there for a while, but I switched to King Richard there. Again, Mass is probably your next most likely bet. I would still not say it's totally done for being the Ricardos, for screenplay. Aaron Sorkin, again, if his movies really take off, then he's much more likely for screenplay. But if it's a mixed, or it's only maybe going to get a 2 for sure, or more, whatever, he doesn't hit. A hero is also one I would say is possible here. Come on, Parallel Mothers. The Harder They Fall is going to be in the original screenplay category here. So again, if that one really does take off, gets like a SAG Ensemble nomination, it could surprise us and get in at WGA. That would be the place I would say, okay, if it can happen there, yeah. And again, we don't know, for sure there's going to be a couple films here and there that are not going to be eligible at WGA. I couldn't even tell you what that looks like right now, because I don't know who in this is, nobody automatically jumps out at me as not a member of the guild, like Tarantino and stuff was one where it's like, oh yeah, we knew that year he wasn't gonna play there. But I forget, PTA I think is part of the guild, isn't he? All right, yeah. Anyways, we'll worry about that later on in the race. Okay, then for your adapted screenplay, I saw Power of the Dog. I think is probably. I don't think it's like 100% gonna happen all the way through, because we don't know yet in this category. What else is gonna play. But that one I think has been out front for me for a while, and it feels like it's going to stay there. Tragic Macbeth in second still, Coda in third, Nightmare Alley in fourth, and then The Humans in fifth. So yeah, no real changes there. I would say, again, Dune is one we might pass up on, and it might still get in, just from the popularity of the film. Passing is one I would look at. House of Gucci as well, if that lands. The Lost Daughter did win a screenplay prize at Venice, so that's not totally out of the dark there. West Side Story, potentially, since it is Tony Kushner, even though the musicals really don't tend to do extremely well at the Oscars. Obviously, La La Land, got nominated and stuff and won at the Globes on a, pure sweep kind of deal. But, go back, historians, and look at the original West Side Story. It won every category it was in, except Best Screenplay, adapted screenplay at that. So, yeah. Otherwise, you do have Cyrano, Journal for Jordan, which we didn't talk a lot about, but yeah, that one I would still say has got some chance. We'll see how it plays and stuff. And Tick Tick Boom is also going to be an adapted, so again, that one seems like more musical and stuff. But yeah, you never know. So yeah, real quick, I was going to talk about Eternals as well, which we have the reviews. It opens tomorrow night. And wow, if you had told me at the beginning of the year that we were going to get our lowest rated so far, I would imagine Spider-Man is not going to get worse reviews than this. The lowest rated Marvel film on record is going to be this year. I would have thought, oh shoot, Shang-Chi's not going to hit, or Black Widow really disappointed. It's Eternals. Yeah, it's right now at 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I saw it. The first reviews came out after the first screenings and the premiere and stuff, and I saw 71. I was like, oh, that's not Marvel. I'm like, that's very much not what Marvel traditionally does. When you look at their average, I think they're in like the 80s on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, really, critics do appreciate those movies. And even though this one with Chloe Zhao at the helm and all, the talented cast in there, very diverse, but also they're all really good actors and everything. And it looks, the trailers have been spectacular and all that. Really, again, the only drawback I've seen at this point is the runtime is almost 240. It's like 237, it says right here. That's still a long movie, and especially, considering it's Marvel, which means there's going to be at least one end credit scene. That means everybody's sticking all the way through, so all the popcorn, the people that clean up afterwards and pick up all the spilled popcorn and everything. Yeah, I mean, there's everybody leaves after the credits are over for those movies for the most part, for the initiated, if you will. But I gotta say, I am very surprised at that it's really not hitting. But obviously, you have to see the movie. I mean, it is, majority of them still give it a positive review, but it's by slim margin right now, and it's obviously not enough to get it to the fresh rating and stuff. So yeah, you look back, it's like a lot of people say, oh, Iron Man 2 is the worst, or Thor the Dark World is the worst and everything. And you look at them on Rotten Tomatoes, they're both like mid-60s, almost low 70s, I think, for Iron Man 2. I kind of looked at them all briefly there the other night, but not on Wikipedia, they put them all there. Yeah, Iron Man 2 is 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. People forget that one was actually liked by critics, not loved, and definitely the fans I think are a little harder on that one than maybe some others are. But for good reasons. It's not a perfect movie. It's a very mixed movie. But I was just completely like, oh, that's not even a possibility in my mind kind of deal. And then it happened. Maybe it's, and I don't want to say it's Man of Steel all over again, because that one I remember I was super hyped for. I'm like, it's going to be spectacular. It's Christopher Nolan. All you can look back to almost my very first videos are going back to that stuff. And that one disappointed, and I did not like that movie. And I know, again, even to this day, fans are just all over the place with that movie. But yeah, it is what it is. And obviously, at this point in the race, seeing this stuff, again, I thought early on, I'm like, look out for Chloe Zhao to be nominated 2 years in a row for director. Maybe even Eternals is that second Marvel Cinematic Universe film to get the Best Picture nomination. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's even close anymore. It's gonna be a more than a long shot. I would say you're looking at No Time to Die having a better shot right now for picture and actor than this one for director and picture. Oh yeah, but and again, it all depends on the movie and how good it is and stuff. And obviously everybody's opinions are going to be whatever they are. But yeah, it's again, especially when you're in the mixed category, like right now, like 53 is really mixed. I always say it's worse at the Oscars to be mixed than to be absolutely hated. Because if you're absolutely hated, again, you go back to Blue Lagoon, Endless Love, 50 Shades of Grey, some of those, it's like they absolutely get like 10% or lower on Rotten Tomatoes, or maybe 50 Shades of Grey is not quite that low. But films that just absolutely despised of and stuff, Was Mannequin that bad? I don't know. I don't know the reviews on Mannequin, but that it's like when they have that one obvious play, which Blue Lagoon was cinematography, Endless Love and Mannequin and 50 Shades were song and stuff. When you have that one obvious play and it can get in, yeah, then it's fine. But if you're really mixed, like obviously last year Malcolm and Marie or some of these other ones, yeah, it hurts you a lot, because you want to be generally, you want to be obviously loved if you're, the 95% plus or whatever, or you want to be, at least like 80% or higher. I think even Belfast is only at like 83, but yeah. Anyways, but and obviously again, Rotten Tomatoes and their scores, it's not everything at the Oscars. Joker was relatively mixed, and that one still got the most nominations that year and stuff. So it's not everything, but anyway, it's just kind of nice to see some of those. Sometimes it lines up exactly with that, and other times, yeah, you do have the anomalies. Vice was another one that was divisive. Everybody made that joke that year. But and that one ended up with director, picture, actor, screenplay, a couple more acting, 8 nominations or whatever it was that year. So, yeah. Yep. All right. Yeah, I think that'll do it for me. Yeah, so yeah, we are in that officially now the early frontrunner stage. So, yeah, we'll keep going from here, and we'll see what else is around the corner. AFI Fest will be coming up pretty soon. Obviously, like I said, some of these films will start screening and being released to general audiences and stuff, and we'll see generally, reactions to those, typically do play a little bit of a role. Obviously, last year they almost played no role because everything was streaming. But, yeah, we'll see if a popular audience reaction to films like King Richard, potentially Belfast for sure. That one, I think, actually opens limited, I believe, in the next couple weeks as well. Let's see here. Universal's got that one, if I remember right. Yeah, Focus and Focus features here in the U.S., but it's a division of Universal. November 12th. Yep, so next weekend. So yeah. Yeah, that one I can see if it plays really well at the box office. That helps that one. King Richard we mentioned for sure. If Licorice Pizza, PTA's always got at least a little bit of an audience at the box office. That one I think would help. Anything there helps. West Side Story, obviously, if that lays a bomb at the box office, yeah, that's not going to help. Yeah, and then French Dispatch, again, in its limited run as it starts going wider and stuff through the rest of November here. Yeah, I think that one, again, good news on that one, and good news generally at the box office, especially in a COVID era, really does, I think, make a little bit more noise, maybe even than it would in other years and stuff. So, all right, that's going to be it. And we'll see it at some point later on this month. Yeah, when we have a little bit more to talk about, or we'll generally give some more updates on some of the other shows. And when we get closer to December, then I'll kind of look at, okay, maybe not the full 23 categories, but definitely we'll get into some tech category predictions as well.